In the spirit of reconciliation, Yellow Ladybugs acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Autistic girls in the early childhood education environment. Now that we know what autism looks like and the difference between internal and external presentations, let's look a little deeper into some of the characteristics and experiences that some autistic girls may have while they are in their early learning setting. Some autistic girls may thrive in their early learning environment. Autistic girls can be very social and may enjoy the social elements of the early learning center. Some will enjoy the routine and the structure of the day, especially in settings where there are clear expectations and predictable routines. Some girls may enjoy some elements, but need additional supports with others, and some will find the entirety of the early learning environment to be overwhelming.
Autism is not a linear spectrum, but a complicated wheel of various autistic traits. Each autistic child will experience these traits differently, and day to day may be different as well. One day, the child may appear fine and regulated, seemingly thriving within their learning environment, and the following day, even if very little has changed, they may be dysregulated and in need of additional supports. Because many autistic girls, even at a very young age, are capable of masking, it may sometimes be hard to pick up on some of these challenges.
In this video, we are going to explore 5 broad areas that many autistic girls within the early learning setting can struggle with. These include peer interactions, social communication, imaginative play, sensory needs, and executive functioning. We will break down each category and highlight how some of these traits may present in autistic girls throughout their early years. We will be discussing how these girls can be supported within their early education environment in future videos.
Peer interactions. The first area we will look at is peer interactions. How a child interacts with her peers within an education setting can be one of the first indicators that the child may be struggling. One of the biggest myths and barriers that parents come across when they are seeking support and understanding for their child is that the child is too social to be autistic. According to criteria that health professionals use for diagnosing autism, in order for a child to be diagnosed as autistic, they need to show deficits in their social communication and social interactions. It can therefore be easy to see how a child that is playing with their peers can be missed. While it is possible for an autistic girl to be social and to have friends, for many autistic girls, making connections and forming friendships can be difficult. This difficulty can present in external, more noticeable ways and may include preferring to play on their own, noticeable signs of distress when around others, introversion, shyness, and situational mutism, or an inability to connect with other children. Their struggles may be more internal or harder to see, as on the surface they appear to be socializing in the same way as their peers. Internal social behaviors that can affect our peer interactions. Social behavior of young autistic girls can look a little bit like this: appearing interested in socializing, but struggling to make genuine connections. You may notice some of these girls always hanging on the outside of groups. It may look like they are playing with them, but there might be little to no actual interaction. A strong reliance on one or two friends. It is not uncommon for young autistic girls to pick one or two friends and be heavily reliant on them. They may appear completely socially capable when with these safe friends, but when grouped with others, behavior may change. One-sided conversations. This can be harder one to spot. In one-sided conversations, young autistic children will happily talk about a topic that interests them. However, with these conversations, they may not easily participate in reciprocal conversations. Instead, they will keep the focus on what they want to talk about and may struggle to deviate from their topic of interest. They may also struggle to read any signs of disinterest from their peers. A need to control play. Due to the anxiety many young autistic girls feel within social situations, they will often try to control the play. They may prefer to choose the game and make the rules. When other peers are abiding by these rules, young autistic girls may appear socially capable. However, if rules of the games change in a way that the young child is not able to follow, they may disengage or show signs of distress. A high developed sense of justice. Many autistic girls have a high level of social justice. These girls may call out their peers if they experience something they see as unfair. They may struggle with nonverbal social cues or understanding facial expressions. They may be the one that always tells the teacher, or they may get distressed if they or someone else is being treated unfairly. On the flip side, they will also often be the girls that come and help if they see someone being wronged. They may be highly empathetic. A common misconception is that autistic people are not able to show empathy. Think of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. For many autistic girls, this is not true. Many autistic girls are empaths, meaning they feel other emotions as strongly as they feel their own. They may actually be the children who get most upset when others are distressed. And finally, they may prefer the company of older or younger children or adults. Many young autistic girls prefer to be friends with their teachers and educators.
For autistic girls with an internalised profile, making friends and interacting socially with neurotypical peers can be unpredictable and anxiety-provoking. To manage their anxiety and discomfort in these situations, many autistic girls will attempt to take control of play and social interactions to make them feel safe. This can look like a child being very directive in their play, becoming upset when they don't get their own way, and insisting that friends say and do certain things. It is important to remember that this behaviour is the result of a child's anxiety in these situations. And as such, the message their behaviour is communicating is that they're anxious and uncertain. They're not trying to be manipulative or mean or bossy. They're just trying to connect and manage their anxiety the best way they can.
Hi everyone, my name is Frances Brennan. I am a paediatric and adolescent speech pathologist and owner of the Speech Tree in Montrose. I'm also a proudly autistic and ADHD health professional. I see two main presentations for autistic preschool age girls. One being the highly anxious presentation, which I think we're getting better at recognising that as potentially autistic neurotype. These are the girls that, they go to the paediatrician and the paediatrician says, oh, look, I just think it's anxiety, or, they're just shy, or let's wait and see. And then these girls go off to school and then the prep teacher raises some concerns, but they say, oh, it's a big adjustment going to prep, let's wait and see. And, it's grade 2 and then we're maybe starting to look at assessment. And we know that, pushing out these times all the while, there's trauma happening for these girls as they're struggling to make sense of the world around them. But I think that's a presentation that we're recognising more readily these days. There's another group though that I feel are not being recognised, and that is our very lively group, our comedians, our performers, that are the big energy in the room. And we talk about masking, but this is like masking to the extreme. These girls are coming in with these really, really big over the top interactions that many perceive as attention-seeking behaviours. But if you've heard me speak about behaviours before, I like to reframe attention-seeking into connection-seeking. But what we see then is those children, they form a connection with one child at kinder, and then another child comes over and tries to join in the play, and all of a sudden that autistic child is getting half the attention they were before, or half the connection that they were before, and they're feeling terribly insecure in that attachment again. And then we start to see what's described as the bossy or the controlling behaviour as they try and re-establish that connection. And this is sometimes where the problem behaviours come out. But, this is where these girls are being missed because they're overtly social. And, so many people believe that can't be autistic. And so I think this is a really big barrier to these girls getting assistance.
Social communication. The next area that many autistic girls can struggle with within an early learning environment is social communication. Social communication looks at how the child communicates and how they understand the verbal and nonverbal communication of others. This includes the use of gestures, making eye contact, using and understanding facial expressions, reading the body language of others, as well as understanding social nuances, including the ability to understand humor and sarcasm. Gestures. Many young autistic children only use minimal hand gestures when communicating. In young autistic girls, you might notice that they rarely use hand gestures to complement their speech. They may also not point to show direction or to point something out to someone else. Eye contact. The ability to use eye contact varies from child to child. Some autistic girls do not make eye contact with most people. Many autistic girls will hold some eye contact with people that they are comfortable with. However, it may be less frequent when they are feeling uncomfortable. Eye contact is not needed to be an active listener. Many autistic girls will hear what is being said and process information better if they are not forced to look at you. Forcing eye contact can also result in physical feelings of pain and overwhelm. It is therefore the recommendation of the autistic community that eye contact never be forced. Young autistic girls often struggle with using and understanding body language. They will not pick up on nonverbal communication and may interpret language very literally, unable to differentiate between words and intention. You may find that a young autistic girl will look to her peers to understand what is happening and will mimic their reactions. As a result, many autistic girls will benefit from direct and literal forms of communication.
Imaginative play. Autistic children can be highly imaginative, and contrary to some of the misconceptions, many autistic children participate in and enjoy imaginative play. Although many autistic girls enjoy pretend play, there are some differences in the way that many autistic young girls will conduct this play. None of these differences are wrong, they just tend to be different to neurotypical styles of play. Restrictive play. One of the most noticeable differences in the way that some autistic girls will pretend play is through their use of restrictive play. Restrictive play means that they may only play with one or two specific toys or may only want to pretend play in a particular way. They may play with the toys in ways other than the intended purpose. They may repeat social scripts from shows they have seen or want things done a particular way. Oftentimes, when challenged with different play scenarios, autistic girls will push back, showing resistance to the changing narratives within play situations by saying it's wrong or they may get upset. Rigidity in imaginative play. Many young autistic girls will take comfort in repetitiveness and predictability, which will often be expressed in their imaginative play. Young autistic girls may welcome others to join in on their play, but will insist that the play must follow a particular storyline, or they may have specific ways of play for each specific toy. It is not uncommon for young autistic girls to tell their playmates how to play their imaginative game, even going as far as to directing speech and actions of their peers so that the play scenario is done right. Special interests. Many autistic girls have special interests. These interests may be intense in nature and may go on for quite some time. Some autistic girls take inspiration from their special interest and translate that into how they pretend play, often mimicking characters and storylines or including their special interest into their imaginative play. This play may be repeated for extended periods of time.
Sensory processing in autistic girls. The fourth area that many young autistic girls can struggle with is with the sensory processing. Every autistic child will have different sensory needs, and these may change each day. Some children will be sensory seekers, some will be sensory avoiders, and many will seek out both. In children who are sensory seeking, they are looking to seek out additional sensory input, which helps their body to stay regulated. Some examples of sensory seeking behaviors include a need for physical movement through spinning, jumping, or taking risks, making lots of noise, or seeking oral stimulation by chewing or fidgeting. Sensory avoiding is the opposite. Children who need to sensory avoid are looking to reduce the sensory overwhelm that they are feeling. Some examples include a high sensitivity to noise, discomfort with tags and fabrics, a dislike for being touched, sensitivity to textures, picky eating, and an aversion to some activities requiring excessive movement, for example, swings or slides or monkey bars. Many autistic girls display both sensory needs, sometimes even at the same time. For example, a child may need to make noise, but is also sensitive to the noises made by others.
For many autistic girls and autistic individuals in general, the sensory environment can also be a significant cause of anxiety and can lead to a child experiencing sensory overwhelm. Autistic individuals tend to be very sensitive to sensory input and are unable to easily filter out sounds, smells, textures, and sights that may be irritating or even painful to their nervous system. When sensory overwhelm occurs, children can respond in a number of different ways. So, for example, they may try and avoid the sensory input by blocking their ears or hiding under a table or blanket. They may engage in stimming to block out the sensory input and allow themselves to calm and regulate, which could involve rocking on their chair, humming or singing loudly, or pacing back and forth. They may feel helpless and just sit or stand where they are and start to cry. All of these behaviours are the child doing the best they can to manage an extremely difficult situation.
Executive functioning. Executive functioning includes the ability to problem solve, follow instructions, focus, have emotional regulation, and manage impulses. Although these skills are still being developed in the early years, some autistic girls may struggle in this area more than their neurotypical peers. You may notice that young autistic girls will look to their classmates more often in order to follow along. They may have poor emotional regulation and become overwhelmed easily if they are not able to do a task. They may have trouble starting a task and need more guidance on what to do. And they may struggle with transitions from one activity to another. In video 4, we will break down some of the strategies that can be implemented within the learning environment that can help support young children struggling with executive functioning. Thank you for watching.